O. Henry. Last leaf. A small block west of Washington Square, the streets became tangled and broke into short strips called driveways. These passages form strange angles and curved lines. One street there even crosses itself twice. A certain artist managed to discover a very valuable property of this street. Suppose a shopkeeper with a bill for paints, paper, and canvas meets himself walking away without receiving a single cent on the bill. And so, in search of north-facing windows, 18th-century roofs, Dutch attics and cheap rents, artists came across a kind of Greenwich Village quarter. Then they moved a few tin mugs and a brazier or two from 6th Avenue and founded a colony. Sue and Jonasy's studio was located at the top of a 3-story brick house. Jonesy is a diminutive of Joanna. One came from Maine, the other from California. They met at the table of a restaurant on 8th Street and found that their views on art, chicory salad, and fashionable sleeves coincided quite well. As a result, a common studio appeared. That was in May. In November, an unfriendly stranger, whom the doctors call pneumonia, walked invisibly around the colony, touching one or the other with his icy fingers. On the east side, this murderer walked boldly, striking dozens of victims, but here, in the labyrinth of narrow, mossy alleys, he trudged foot by foot. Mr. Pneumonia was by no means a gallant old gentleman. A petite girl, bloodless from California zephyrs, could hardly be considered a worthy opponent for a burly old dullard with red fists and shortness of breath. But he knocked her down, and Jonesy lay motionless on the painted iron bed, looking through the fine sashes of the Dutch window at the blank wall of the brick house next door. One morning, the anxious doctor called Sue into the corridor with a single movement of his shaggy gray eyebrows. "She has one chance." "Well, let's say against 10, he said, shaking off the mercury in the thermometer. "And then only if she wants to live herself. Our entire pharmacopoeia loses its meaning when people begin to act in the interests of the undertaker. Your little young lady has decided that she will not get better. What is she thinking about?" To her, she wanted to paint the Bay of Naples. Paints. Nonsense. Didn't she have something in her heart that was really worth thinking about, like a man? Men. Sue asked, her voice harsh like a harmonica. "Is the man really standing?" "No, doctor, there is nothing of the kind." "Well, then it just weakened," the doctor decided. "I will do everything I can do as a representative of science. But when my patient begins to count the carriages in his funeral procession, I take 50% off the healing power of the medicines. If you can get her to ask once what style of sleeves she will wear this winter, I can bet you that she will have 1 in 5 instead of 1 in 10. After the doctor left, Sue ran into the workshop and cried into a Japanese paper napkin until it was completely soaked. Then she bravely walked into Jonesy's room with the drawing board, whistling ragtime. Jonesy lay with her face turned to the window, barely visible under the blankets. Sue stopped whistling, thinking that Jonesy had fallen asleep. She attached a blackboard and began to draw ink for a magazine story. For young artists, the path to art is paved with illustrations to magazine stories, with which young authors pave their way into literature. Sketching the figure of an Idaho cowboy in elegant breeches and with a monocle in his eye, Sue heard a quiet whisper, repeated several times. She hurriedly approached the bed. Jonasy's eyes were wide open. She looked out the window and counted backwards. 12, she said, and after a while, 11, and then 10 and 9, and then 8 and 7, almost at the same time. Sue looked out the window. What was there to count? All that was visible was the empty, dreary courtyard and the blank wall of a brick house 20 paces away. An old ivy with a knotty, rotten trunk at the roots braided the brick wall to the half. The cold breath of autumn tore the leaves from the vines, and the bare skeletons of the branches clung to the crumbling bricks. "What's the matter, dear?" Sue asked. 6, said Jonesy, barely audible. "Now they fly around faster." 3 days ago, there were almost 100 of them. My head was spinning to count. And now it's easy. Here is another one. Now there are only 5 left. What's 5, dear? Tell your Sudi. Leaves. On ivy. When the last leaf falls, I will die. I've known this for 3 days now. Didn't the doctor tell you? It's the first time I've heard such nonsense. Sue retorted with splendid contempt. What do the leaves on the old ivy have to do with you getting better? And you loved that ivy so much, you ugly girl. Don't be stupid. Why, the doctor told me this morning that you would soon recover. Excuse me, how did he say that? That you have 10 chances against 1. And this is no less than each of us here in New York, when you ride a streetcar or walk past a new house. Try to eat some broth and let your Sudi finish the drawing so she can sell it to the editor and buy wine for her sick girl and pork cutlets for herself. You don't need to buy any more wine, said Johnsy, staring out of the window. Here is another one. No, I don't want broth. This means that there are only 4 left. I want to see the last leaf fall. Then I will die too. Jonesy dear, Sue said, leaning over her, do you promise me not to open my eyes or look out of the window until I'm done working? I have to turn in these illustrations tomorrow. I need light, or I'd pull down the curtain. Can't you paint in the other room? Johnsy asked coldly. I'd like to sit with you, Sue said. And besides, I don't want you to look at those stupid leaves. Tell me when you're done, said Jonesy, closing her eyes, pale and motionless as a fallen statue, because I want to see the last leaf fall. I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of thinking. I want to be free from everything that holds me back, to fly lower and lower, like one of those poor, tired leaves. Try to sleep, Sue said. I need to call Berman. I want to paint a hermit gold digger from him. I'm just a minute at most. See that you don't stir until I come. Old Berman was an artist who lived downstairs, below their studio. He was already over 60, and his beard, all in curls like Michelangelo's Moses, descended from his satyr's head on the body of a dwarf. In art, Berman was a loser. He was still going to write a masterpiece, but he did not even begin it. For several years he had not written anything but signs, advertisements and similar daub for a piece of bread. He earned something by posing for young artists who could not afford professional models. He drank heavily, but still talked about his future masterpiece. For the rest, he was an angry old man who scoffed at all sentimentality and looked upon himself as a watchdog specially assigned to guard 2 young artists. Sue found Berman, smelling strongly of juniper berries, in his dimly lit downstairs room. In one corner, for 25 years, an untouched canvas had stood on an easel, ready to receive the first touches of a masterpiece. Sue told the old man about Jonasie's fantasy and her fears that she, light and fragile as a leaf, would fly away from them when her unstable connection with the world weakened. Old man Berman, whose red eyes were very visibly watery, shouted, mocking such idiotic fantasies. What? He shouted. Is it possible to die from the leaves falling from the damned ivy? This is the first time I've heard of it. No, I don't want to pose for your idiot hermit. How do you allow her to fill her head with such nonsense? Oh, poor little Miss Jonesy. She's very sick and weak, Sue said, and her fever gives her all sorts of morbid fantasies. Very well, Mr. Berman, if you don't want to sit for me, don't. And yet I think you're a nasty old man. A nasty old chatterbox. What a real woman. Berman shouted. Who said I don't want to pose? Go. I'm coming with you. For half an hour I say that I want to pose. Oh my God. This is not the place for a good girl like Miss Jonesy to be sick. Someday I'll write a masterpiece, and we'll all leave here. Yes, yes. Jonesy was dozing as they went upstairs. Sue pulled down the curtain all the way to the windowsill and motioned for Berman to go into another room. There they went to the window and looked at the old ivy with fear. Then they looked at each other without saying a word. It was a cold, persistent rain mixed with snow. Berman in an old blue shirt sat down in the pose of a hermit gold prospector on an overturned teapot instead of a rock. The next morning, Sue awoke from a short nap to find Jonas's dull, wide-open eyes fixed on the drawn green curtain. "Pick her up, I want to see," Jonesy whispered. Sue obeyed wearily. And what happened? After the pouring rain and sharp gusts of wind that did not stop all night, one ivy leaf was still visible on the brick wall, the last one. Still dark green at the stalk, but touched along the jagged edges by the yellowness of decay, it held bravely on a branch 20 feet above the ground. "That's the last one," Jonesy said. "I thought he would fall at night. I heard the wind. He will fall today, then I will die too. God bless you," Sue said, leaning her tired head against the pillow. "Think of me if you don't want to think of yourself. What will happen to me?" But Jonesy did not answer. The soul, preparing to set off on a mysterious, distant journey, becomes alien to everything earthly. A morbid fantasy took possession of Jonesy more and more strongly, as one by one all the threads that connected her with life and people were broken. The day passed, and even in the twilight they could see a lonely ivy leaf holding on to its stalk against the brick wall. And then, at nightfall, the north wind rose again, and the rain knocked incessantly on the windows, rolling down from the low-hanging Dutch roof. As soon as it was dawn, the merciless Jonesy ordered the curtain to be raised again. The ivy leaf was still in place. Jonesy lay there for a long time, looking at him. Then she called Sue, who was heating chicken broth for her on a gas burner. "I was a bad girl, Sudie," said Jonesy. "That last leaf must have been left on the branch to show me how ugly I was. It is a sin to wish for oneself to die. Now you can give me some broth, and then milk and port. No, bring me a mirror first, and then put pillows around me, and I'll sit and watch you cook." An hour later she said, "Sudie, I hope to paint the Bay of Naples someday." In the afternoon the doctor came, and Sue followed him into the hallway on some pretext. "The odds are equal," the doctor said, shaking Sue's thin, trembling hand. "With good care, you will win. And now I have to visit another sick person downstairs. His last name is Berman. It seems that he is an artist. Also pneumonia. He is already old and very weak, and the form of the disease is severe. There is no hope, but today he will be sent to the hospital, where he will be calmer." The next day the doctor said to Sue, "She's out of danger. You have won. Now nutrition and care, and nothing else is needed." That evening, Sue walked over to the bed where Jonesy lay, happily knitting a bright blue, useless scarf, and put one arm around her, along with the pillow. "I have something to tell you, White Mouse," she began. "Mr. Berman died today in the hospital of pneumonia. He was sick for only 2 days. On the morning of the first day, the porter found the poor old man on the floor of his room. He was unconscious. His shoes and all his clothes were soaked through and cold as ice. No one could understand where he was going on such a terrible night. Then they found a lantern that was still burning, a ladder that had been moved from its place, several abandoned brushes, and a palette of yellow and green paints. Look out the window, dear, at the last ivy leaf. Didn't it surprise you that he didn't tremble or stir in the wind? Yes, dear, this is Berman's masterpiece. He wrote it on the night when the last sheet flew off." Friends, thank you for watching. Support the channel with subscriptions, comments, and a thumbs up. I am waiting for you at the next get-together with the book. Your narrator, Irene.